So in this video, we're going to talk about W.I.N.E. W.I.N.E. is a recursive acronym that stands for W.I.N.E. is not an emulator. So W.I.N.E. is a piece of software that is designed to be able to allow you to run Windows programs in your Linux environment. So why is W.I.N.E. not an emulator? Well, an emulator is defined as a technique of one machine obtaining the same result as another. Now, W.I.N.E. does not emulate a Windows environment. W.I.N.E. simply is a compatibility layer that allows the Windows application to run in the Linux environment. So why do we need this? We need this mostly for the reasons of Linux has a great amount of software, but some of the software will not do what its Windows counterparts will. In this instance, we need something that will allow us to run our Windows applications, whether they were paid for or whether they are applications we just can't get around using. So a great set of tools I like to use is W.I.N.E. and then Play on Linux. So I'm going to go install those. So first off, we need W.I.N.E. So here it is. I'm going to install it. Then insert your administrator password. Now here we have Play on Linux. I'm also going to install that. And then finally, W.I.N.E. Tricks. So these three applications should be enough to run almost any Windows program. Alright, so all those applications installed. So now I have this Windows application right here that I want to install. So I'm going to run Play on Linux. So first off, it asks me a couple of initial questions, so I'm going to click Next. So now I can click Next. So now I want to install a new program, so I'm going to click Install. So you can see there are lots and lots of applications already pre-programmed in here. However, mine is not in here, so I'm going to click Install a non-listed program. So then I'm going to click Next. So I want to install this on a new virtual drive, so I'm going to click Next here. I always name my virtual drives after the program, so I'm going to call this W.I.N.E. ISD. So I'm going to click Next. So generally, the only one you need to check here is Configure W.I.N.E, so I'm going to do that, and click Next. So here's W.I.N.E. There's plenty of settings in here for you to muck around with. The only setting I usually change is this one, which is Windows version. I like to keep this at either XP or 7. So I'm going to click 7 and hit Apply, and then OK. So now I need to select an install file to run. So I'm going to click Browse, and then I'm going to navigate to my desktop. Here's the executable I want to open, so I'm going to click Open. So then I click Next after I've selected that executable. Here's the executable launching to install. So I'm going to click Next, Next, Next. Now here you're going to want to keep it at its standard setting, which is C Program Files W.I.N.E ISD. Or in your case, C Program Files, whatever the name of the program is. This is because this C drive here is actually a virtual drive in Linux, because Linux does not refer to hard drives as letter names like Windows does. So the C drive is actually a virtual drive, so it's best to keep it at its standard. So I'm going to click Next, and then I'm going to click Next, Next. So now that Play on Linux is finishing up the install. So now it shows me all of the executables that it installed. So I'm going to click on this one to set up a new shortcut. So I click Next. It asks me for the name of the shortcut, so I'm going to name it the name of the executable. W.I.N.E. So I'm going to click Next. So now it created that shortcut on my desktop here. So now I'm going to click I don't want to make another shortcut and click Next. So there you have it. There's the Windows application installed. It already put a shortcut on my desktop, so I don't need to do the shortcut. If you have problems with this, you can click on Configure and set up W.I.N.E and other packages that you need to install to make it all work. Right now this application doesn't need anything else, so I'm going to click Run. And everything worked. This is my Windows application running in Linux. So I'm going to close that now. So now I can close this, and it'll say, are you sure you want to close? I always say yes, and then now I can launch my program from here by double-clicking on the shortcut on the desktop. And that worked. As well as if you move this to your home folder, go to your home folder, drag this icon to the Unity launcher, you can actually have the icon put right on the Unity launcher. That way it looks just like a Linux program. So now I'm done with that executable. So now I need to go to the trash. Here's the trash. I can open it up and empty the trash, or I can restore the items. Right now I want to empty the trash, so I click Empty, and then click Empty Trash. So that was the install of a basic application. Now let's go to something more advanced. So I'm a big fan of Google SketchUp, so I'm going to go grab that. Alright, so now that's saved to my Downloads folder. So if I open up Play on Linux again, and then I click Install, if I type in Google SketchUp, here it is in the list, so I'm going to select that one and click Install. So now I'm going to click Next. So now you can see Play on Linux knows that W.I.N.E 1.5.0 works the best for Google SketchUp, so it's downloading that version, and it's going to use it only for Google SketchUp. The original program I installed is still using the original version of W.I.N.E that I had set up. So now it's asking me if I want to install W.I.N.E Gecko. This is a piece of software that helps internet-connected applications, so I'm going to click Install. W.I.N.E Gecko is often installed with Windows applications. So now it's asking me whether I want to download the program or use the setup file on my computer. Well, seeing as how I downloaded it directly from Google, I'm going to use the setup file on my computer. So now I go to that folder, which is under my Downloads folder, and then SketchUp. So I'm going to open that, and click Next. So now I'm going to click Next. I accept Next. Again, keep C program files, and then the program's name as the default. And then Finish. So then I'm going to click Next. And now that's successfully installed. Some programs do put a .lnk or a link on your desktop, however these are most likely broken, so I always delete these. The link that Play on Linux put is correct though. So now I can double click on this. So now I have SketchUp running. So there was how to install a little bit more of an advanced application. That application needed a couple of extra dependencies that Play on Linux had covered. So the install process for most Windows applications will be very similar to the ones you've just seen. It is possible to get Windows games to work in Linux, however, they're usually a little bit slower and a little bit more difficult to set up. I have, however, had success with getting Steam and Portal 2 to run in Linux natively, so thanks for tuning in.